What's good, folks, family, friends, loved ones, enemies, frenemies, wizards, witches, muggles, mudbloods, people of Middle Earth, to another episode of Disguise Coverage, the only podcast that gives you an equal amount of blueberries in each muffin, presented by the best pizza in Buffalo, New York, and that is One Pie Pizza. Find the online menu in the episode show notes, whether here on YouTube or whichever podcasting app or platform you're listening to this show on. I am your host, Anthony Prohaska. Find me on Twitter at pro__ant. That's pro 2_ANT. Find me on Blue Sky at proant. No underscores there, just PROANT. In this episode of Disguise Coverage, we are going to be diving into a heavy, first flub already, kind of, but maybe not, a heavy tight end focus in this episode, centering around Bills rookie tight end Jackson Hawes, who, if for those of you joining me live, feel free to start the counter on how many times I call him Spencer or not. Former NBA player Spencer Hawes. We're going to be talking about Jackson Hawes in this episode. And we're going to be talking about the Bills tight end room in general, the 12 personnel packages they can get to, the 13 personnel packages they can get to. I'm going to be going over some advanced metrics that kind of put into perspective where they are as a group and what they mean to the offense thus far through the first 3 weeks. And then also have kind of a higher level conversation about the schematics, the dictation piece, and just really what they mean collectively as a unit, as a group for this Buffalo Bills offense. And a lot of the reason, we're doing this episode is because Jackson Hawes has been fantastic. He's had some nice catches. He's had some moments where he's shown up in the pass from a clutch standpoint or from a high visibility standpoint, but just week in and week out as a blocker. And I know that's not the sexiest thing, although I think with his effectiveness and his track record, it's becoming more of a sexy thing for Bills fans and becoming more of a sexy thing to be, kind of watched for week in and week out. But he's just been so consistent in mashing dudes, like various positions, body types. He's mashing guys. He's solo blocking edges and defensive ends, one-on-one off play action. He's base blocking guys. He's washing guys down. He's able to function in gap schemes. He's able to function in zone. He can function within doubles and climb to the second level. He's just been so impactful for this team already. But it ties into the larger conversation of, I think, what this offense is this year and what they could be with the tight end room and just what they are in general. We've talked a bunch on this show for the past couple of off seasons about the Bills offense and the direction that they were going in, getting away from, really starting last offseason, getting away from the spread type of offense and the smaller, quote unquote, the Smurf type of wide receivers, and moving onto and leaning into bigger body types at the wide receiver position. And last year was, really guys like Keon Coleman and Matt Collins in particular, Matt Collins had a really good year for the Bills. His role as a blocker, as that bigger body type that could mash any DB really, but that could also function as a legitimate pass catcher when they needed him. I think a lot of folks forget that before Amari Cooper came on, Matt Collins was the cover zero beater, and he had some really nice moments as a pass catcher for the Bills last year. Could have had another one. Allen overthrew him a bit in that game down in Houston where Mac ran a really nice double move, and Matt Collins goes, and he played, again, didn't put up like these crazy receiving stats, but he was a very important piece of this offense with what they were trying to do with changing body types at receiver and leaning more into personnel grouping, formation, condensed formations, alignment, using all of that to kind of move towards a run first or a run based offense and attacking defenses from there. So Hollins goes. And then the thought is, okay, who replaces Matt Collins? Who replaces that type of role? Is it Keon Coleman who takes the next step? Is it Dalton Kincaid who takes the next step as a blocker potentially? Is it Josh Palmer? Is it Khalil Shakir? Is it more 6 offensive linemen packages and groupings like the Bills used last year where they led the league in that and were tremendous in that world and in that role? Or is it more Reggie Gilliam? Kind of just trying to put those breadcrumbs together and see what they were going to be. And so far, it's really been, the way that they've alleviated that. And they've hit some run stuff with, 11 personnel and receivers. Tyrell Shavers has performed admirably in that role. Shakir does his thing at times. But a lot of it has really been what the Bills have been able to do with these tight ends, with what Kincaid affords you, what Knox affords you, and with what Jackson Hawes affords you. And you've That's kind of where I want to set the table, talk about this grouping. We're going to get into some metrics which speak very highly of them. Then we'll get into the Jackson Hawes tape and really break this thing down. You've got a really fun group at the tight end position. And I don't know how we want to rank them on the depth chart, but it's a good balance. You've got Knox, who I think is in the middle, where, so much of his game that gets talked about or shown or highlighted is the pass catching stuff. It's his athleticism and it's the plays he makes or doesn't make in the air. The big catches, the run after catch, or the easy drops, or the really spectacular catches followed up by easy drops or preceded by them. But he's really become this nice middling, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but like a middling skill set type of tight end where he can hold his own in the run game as, a tight end that you can hip off the formation or a line in a wing, or you can put him in line and he can function and he can be viable there for you, or he could function as a pass catcher. And then you've got Dalton Kincaid, who is more of, all jokes aside, more of a wide, like a big bodied wide receiver, but he can hold his own as a blocker, especially against DBs, mainly against DBs. We've seen him in each of the games this year for the Bills mashing corners and making space for guys on RPOs and little bubbles and screens and stuff like that. The jet sweep to Elijah Moore against the Jets, where he takes the corner for a ride and helps clear the way. Kincaid's always been a willing blocker, but his frame and his technique are the reason that he's not really able to hold his own regularly against defensive ends, against edges, against bigger body types, more physical type of players and presences. And so you've got Kincaid, who leans more towards the pass catching side. You've got Knox, who can live in the light and the dark. And then you've got Hawes, who is the killdozer, who is this mauler, masher type of tight end. But I do think he can hold his own as a pass catcher. And we've seen it a little bit this year, but we talked about what he could be this offseason. And just, he's got some explosion and burst to him. Not really burst from like a speed and quickness standpoint, but from a power standpoint. From 0 to 10 yards, he can get vertical a little bit. He can move a little bit with the ball in his hands. I don't think he's ever going to be, this 1,000-yard receiving type of tight end or this 80 to 100 catch type of tight end, but he can function as a pass catcher. He's viable in that world. He's almost kind of the inverse of Kincaid, although I think he's a better pass catcher. I think he functions better in the pass catching world than Kincaid does as a blocker, but it's close. But he's almost kind of the inverse of Kincaid. And you look at that group in totality with Knox and Kincaid and Hawes, and you've got this nice group where when you put them on the field in 12 personnel, for those who don't know what that means, 12 personnel, 1 running back, 2 tight ends, 13 personnel, 1 running back, 3 tight ends. 11 personnel would be 1 running back, 1 tight end. 10 personnel would be 1 running back, no tight ends. So when you go into 12 and 13 personnel, you've got these tight ends now who allow you to dictate to defenses and access more of the play calling menu without having to turn the page. And I say that a ton on this show. I think most of you know what that means by now, but just in case you don't, essentially you can get to a multitude of runs and passes and play calls and concepts with the tight ends that you have on the field without having to change your personnel grouping. If you want to get to a certain pass, you can. If you've got Knox and Kincaid out there, you can get to a multitude of runs from that as well. And then with Hawes and Knox, Hawes and Kincaid, and then you add in the condensed formation aspect and the different alignments that you can get into, and you can go a little spread. You can go 2 by 2. You can go heavy and just really shrink and reduce everything and then increase your run game menu. And then you can go play action off of that. You can stay in that grouping after you ran the ball through someone's face, stay in that grouping, come out the next play and go a little 2 by 2 gun or something like that. There's a multitude of plays and concepts you can get to without having to, we got to sub this guy out. We got to leave 12. If we want to pass, we got to get out of 12 and go to 11. We want to run. Okay, let's switch these 2 tight ends, or let's bring this guy tight end out and let's put a fullback on there. There's less tells that are starting to develop. And then even with the tells that are there when Hawes is on the field and you're sitting there thinking like, okay, he's on the field. They're probably going to mash us. They're probably going to do one of these 3 or 4 things. He's so effective in his role and they're so good at those 3 or 4 things then it almost doesn't matter. He's getting to the point where he's on the field and in conjunction with this Bills offensive line and Aaron Cromer and Joe Brady and James Cook, it's almost like they can tell you what's coming. You're still not going to be able to stop it. Like their fastball on the ground, you can tell somebody, hey man, like I'm throwing the fastball right down the plate. good luck. See if you can hit it. And more often than not, the hitters just are not hitting it. And then they can work in some changeups and some curveballs and really dictate the defenses. And if you're a defense, you have to sit there and look at those personnel groupings because they can run, because they're 12 and 13 personnel packages put defenses into so much run pass conflict. As a defense, you have to sit there from a personnel standpoint and decide, okay, it's Knox and Kincaid. All right, are we going to nickel? Or should we go in base? Okay, it's Knox and Hawes. We probably got to go base. But then if you're going base, can your third linebacker hold up in coverage against Knox or Hawes? If they go 13 personnel, you're almost guaranteed to go base and then go heavy a little bit on the defensive side. But then how are you matching up with Kincaid? Are you bringing it corner if he's like the last man, kind of not really in the wing or in line, which he usually isn't? Are you matching him with the corner? And if that's the case, he's going to eat that corner as a run blocker, or even get to the nickel. He can mash on the safety. There's a multitude of things that you can do offensively that puts that defense in a bind from a run pass conflict, where this personnel grouping is something that you see, and you're the personnel, whoever's calling anything for the eye in the sky for you and being like, oh, they're in 12. And it's not like they're in 12, they're running it. Oh, they're in 12, they're passing it. It's like they're in 12. And you immediately have to think. You have to start thinking tendency, down and distance, situation, and all of those things coalesce into the effectiveness that they have out of 12, out of 13. And again, this is, a testament to Knox and even a testament to Kincaid, but Jackson Hawes and his skill set has really been a nice refining piece and puzzle fitting piece to this tight end room, which extends so well into the offense. Because again, as we've said on the show all year and all off season, and we're going to continue to say it, as much as Josh Allen is the MVP and quarterbacks are the story and all of that, the Bills are a run first team. The run dictates what this offense does. They can use it to dictate the defenses, but it's also the starting point for anything they do offensively. The offensive line and the ground game is what churns this offense. This offense is not built to go spread and have Allen fling it 35 to 40 or 40 to 45 times a game. They want to run the hell out of the ball, pass it 25 to 30, hopefully work in more play action. They're still not doing that. They're 24th in play action rate at 20%. I feel like they should be higher, but maybe we'll get that down the road. Last year, it was the 6 offensive lineman stuff that put defenses into a bind. This year, it looks to be Jackson Hawes. He's replaced Alec Anderson a bit in that discussion point because he offers some semblance of that blocking ability with going big on big, but he's obviously a much more viable threat as a pass catcher when they go in those looks. And yeah, it's just been absolutely awesome. Let's grab some comments here, and then we're going to dive into some of the numbers here. Jason says, wait, 2 film sessions in one day? How am I this blessed? Yeah, Eric and I did the film room earlier today. Obviously, I'm doing some film and disguise coverage tonight. It's just how the Bills playing on Thursday last week, and then Eric and I's schedule this week was wonky, so had to try and fit where we could. Rick says, I'm so ready for this one. This guy blocks hard and makes impactful catches. Seems like a game changer. James calls Hawes the steal of the draft. K. Mori says, I might have missed the announcement, but is this going to be more of the style of the shows this year instead of preview shows? Love both styles, by the way. I'm still kicking it around. I'm enjoying these ones more instead of the preview episodes. I'm not saying that's going to completely go away. If I can get my schedule from a day job standpoint and maybe do one of these offline and drop it on a Monday evening or early Tuesday, and then do the preview shows for DC on Tuesday nights, that might come back. I'm still kicking it around. Also, a lot of it depends on like the film that I plan on using, if it's going to get pinged or not. So that kind of monkeys with things, but I'm enjoying this significantly more than the previous format. So I'm glad you love both styles, by the way. But I am right now, I'm kind of leaning more into this. We'll see how that looks like going forward. Just the Tippy Cadu says, waffle fries and chicken tenders with a glass of Nestle Quick for dinner. Go Bills. That sounds like a feast. I am down for that. I like this from James, who says, when technique meets desire and ambition. Jason says, the Hawes draft pick was super cute, but now we're starting to be like, oh, dang, I think he is actually really pretty. Adam says, who is the cover 0 beater now? Palmer? We really don't know as of yet, because I would probably say Palmer. It depends on who aligns where. But I don't think there's anyone that's kind of laid claim to it the way Hollins did early on last year. and then Amari Cooper after that. Bum, bum, bum. Oh, I like the stuff from James saying Hawes has inspired Dalton and Dawson to block as best as they can. Man, Dalton and Dawson is a hard thing to say 5 times fast. Hawes is an old school tight end, says Billy. That's absolutely right. All right. Joey saying Hawes being able to one-on-one block the D end is impressive for a rookie. Yes, we've got several clips of that to dive into. It's one of my favorite things. RJ says, I still think Hawes has a chance to be an elite tight end. He has good movement and solid hands, surprisingly. It's like if you took Lee Smith and gave him Knox's hands. Yeah, I think the jury's still out on him as a pass catcher. I'm hopeful. I think he's more of a really high-end tight end 2, low-end 1 because he is more blocking focused, but he's not a poor athlete. And if he can start to add more nuance, I know nuance is thrown around way too much in the football space nowadays, but if he can add more from like a route running standpoint, a pass catching standpoint, a lot of it too is going to be based on how Brady uses him, but I think he could be a very, 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 very effective player for a very, very long time. And he fits this offense absolutely tremendously. Yeah, as Jason says, it was always interesting that we just presumed Hawes literally has no hands and was incapable of catching and never thought, hey, what if he learns to catch? He could catch. He had some nice catches at Georgia Tech. He was just in a run-heavy offense. It was talked about as a run blocker, but he's viable as a pass catcher. He's not a stud as a pass catcher yet. He's not a true dual threat type of tight end, but he can function. And I think that will start to build and stack with some of these play action looks that they've been showing and some of just the overall play calls and concepts and anything that they were doing as well. All right, let's get into some metrics here. So for the basis of it, the Bills offense has been successful these first 3 weeks. I don't think that's crazy for anyone to kind of hear or see. The first 3 weeks, the Bills offense overall, right? So everything in totality, they're third in EPA per play at 0.189, and they're second in success rate at 49.5%. So keep those numbers in mind, not necessarily the ranking, but the numbers, right? Third in EPA per play at 0.189, second in success rate at 49.5. When in 12 or 13 personnel, they're tied for first in EPA per play at 0.312, and they're first in success rate at 61.8. So their EPA per play overall, 0.189. EPA per play when in 12 or 13 personnel, 0.312. Big difference. Overall, second in success rate of 49.5 when in 12 or 13. First in success rate, 61.8%. Over a 12 percentage point jump, which is absolutely huge. If you want to just go to 12 personnel, which they've run 14 plays out of 12, which is 29th in the league. So not as much 12 as you might think. They're second in EPA per play at 0.316. Again, their EPA per play in 12 dwarfing their regular overall EPA per play. Second in EPA per play at 0.316. First in success rate at 64.3%. So almost a full 15 percentage point jump versus their overall offense. 13 personnel. They've run 20 plays out of 13. True 13, not like 13 with an extra offensive lineman, just actual true regular old 13. 20 plays out of 13, which is the third most. 17 of those plays in 13 personnel, so 17 out of those 20 have been runs, which is the most in the NFL. They are sixth in EPA per play out of 13 personnel at 0.309, and they're fourth in success rate at 60%. Caveat there with success rate, the 3 teams that are above them have only run 1 play each out of 13 personnel. So essentially they're first, even though they're fourth when it comes to 13 personnel success rate. So overall a good offense, no shock there, third in EPA per play, second in success rate overall. But when they go into 12 and 13, their EPA per play takes a significant jump. Their success rate takes a significant jump. And then if we're just focusing on the run game out of 13 personnel, again, those where you're packing your 3 tight ends in there, Knox, Kincaid, and Hawes. The Bills run game out of 13 personnel, 0.243 EPA per rush, which is fourth, 58.8 success rate, which is third, and then some big ones. You don't need to know advanced metrics to know these 3. 8.5 yards per rush, which is first, 3.1 yards before contact per rush, which is second, and 5.4 yards after contact per rush, which is second. They have just mashed and mauled and found a lot of success when they go to 12 and they go to 13. And I think Jackson Hawes is a significant part of that, as is Dawson Knox, as is Dalton Kincaid. And it's just been absolutely awesome to watch on the tape. And with that being said, let us dive into the tape. Any questions, thoughts, comments, concerns as I start to go through and break down the tape here? Bear with me, obviously, as I'm, doing the telestration and doing the film. I may miss some things in the comments, but feel free to put anything and everything up into there as we do here when we do these type of episodes. Once I get to the end of the film, I'll go back, scroll through, bring up as many comments as physically and as humanly possible. As always, super chats get priority because I respect the monetary donation and because the color will distract me and catch my eyes almost immediately as soon as we do that. All right, let's drop the banner. Let's pull this up. Let's go full screen. Let's go full screen. Everybody can see. Fantastic. Let's dive into some Jackson Hawes tape. This first one, I let off with the pass pro stuff because I don't think it's gotten enough attention. And I think this type of stuff really highlights what he's able to do. So he's in pass pro here, right here, have him circled, against Will McDonald, edge for the New York Jets. Lanky, speedy, bursty type of edge rusher, different type of body type than you normally see off the edge, but his speed, his length, he's got some moves, all that stuff can give guys problems. They are straight up on this play letting Hawes handle McDonald one-on-one. This is part of the benefit that we talked about last year with Alec Anderson. If you have a regular tight end, like no disrespect to Kincaid, if you have Kincaid here, this is advantage Will McDonald. Honestly, it should be an advantage for any and every, or most at least, defensive ends. We talked about it last week with Joey Bosa when we showed some clips. If you are a defensive end or edge who is worth their salt, I got to stop because we got a super chat. Jason, I appreciate you for being here as always, and the $2 donation. And Jason says, super chats get priority. See, he wasn't lying. I like that you knew I would pull it up. I appreciate you. Well done. Well done. As we talked about with Joey Bosa last week, any edge, if they are worth their salt, should own a tight end that is trying to block them. That's just essentially kind of the way of the world. So if you can find a tight end that can hold his own against an edge, against any edge, that is a huge impactful thing. That tying it into last year, that's part of that 6 offensive lineman advantage that Alec Anderson brought last year, because you could put him online or inline in these situations and go big on big. It would be him against a defensive end or an edge. And then you don't have to worry as much about how long can our tight end hold up if we go play action, or if we go, straight drop back from under center. Is our quarterback going to have to spit the ball out fast? Can we get to some longer developing concepts? Can we push the ball downfield? We can only do that if the pass protection holds up. Okay, do we have a guy who at tight end who can handle an edge or defensive end one-on-one? No. Do we got to give him some help? Do we put a 6 offensive lineman? Alec Anderson was a huge equalizer because he could go big on big and handle himself out there against defensive ends and edges, but obviously he wasn't very viable as a pass catcher. Now you've got Jackson Hawes who can handle himself in one-on-one pass pro against defensive ends and edges, but he's much more viable as a pass catching threat as opposed to Alec Anderson. So let's dive in. Watch this one. I like this one. One of my favorite ones from him all year. Again, pass pro rep versus Will McDonald. He's going to try and hit him with a snatch trap, and then he's going to refit his hands inside. McDonald's going to try and dip and rip, and we're going to watch Hawes lean on him and just drive him outside. So go here, start in slow-mo. Bang. They engage. See, Hawes' hands a little bit outside the frame initially. Not ideal placement, but McDonald's a bit of a slender guy. But watch what we get here. You see McDonald try to kind of lift Hawes up, get inside him. Look at the hands. They're already coming detached for Hawes. Bang. Chops down on the wrist of McDonald. Watch McDonald completely lose balance, fall forward. But McDonald transitions. He actually does a pretty nice job here. He regains himself, regains composure, and is like, all right, what can I do here? We're engaged. We're in this dance. Let me try and dip and rip. So he tries to dip and rip. And look at Hawes just lean on him. Literally leaning on him, and just drives him wide and completely out of frame. Played in real time a couple times for you. Boom. It's that immediate transition for Hawes that is really nice from a one-on-one standpoint. Chops the hands, drives, leans. Again, we get the hands outside. Immediate transition. Let's lift them off. Bang. Chop down. We've snatched the momentum. We don't get the full snatch and trap. where McDonald face plants and we trap him or bury him into the earth. McDonald regains himself a little bit. Hawes gets his hands inside. Look at where he refits his hands after he chops. So get the hands outside, bang, chop. Now watch the hands of Hawes. Boom, right inside, right into the chest. Locks in, has control. McDonald tries to, you can see this, another good example here. The hands are right into the chest there, right into the breastplate. McDonald tries to dip and rip, lean into that speed and that athleticism. Hawes just uses technique and power, drives him wide. Really nice. Really, really nice stuff. Maintains leverage, regains leverage. Watch it in real time. Boom. That's really nice. And again, that's the type of stuff that you got from Alec Anderson last year, which was a huge benefit. But now you can get this from a tight end who, no disrespect to Alec Anderson, is a much more viable threat as a pass catcher than Alec Anderson is. That's really nice. Also, look at the real time shows you. Look at the hands and feet in sync, right? The hands control, the feet are what drive. Look at that. Doesn't stop moving his feet. Hands are in sync with the feet. Locks in, latches, the leverage, the technicality, the physicality. That's so pretty. And it's from a rookie. Like, this is absolutely beautiful. Bang. Absolutely beautiful. Love that rep. Now, I wanted to show that one first and show this one second, because this is also, as you can see, labeled up here. This is Jackson Hawes in Pass Pro again versus an edge. Now, this time the edge is Miami Dolphins edge, Mr. Bradley Chubb. Chubb, much different player than Will McDonald, right? We showed McDonald. I think most of you folks know Will McDonald, lighter, leaner, more athletic, more dippy, more bendy. Chubb is thicker, bigger bodied, more compression, much more power than speed and burst. So we showed Hawes hold his own in Pass Pro against one type of edge. Now we're showing him again against a different type of edge. What I want you to watch on this one, Hawes is going to get driven back at first a bit by Chubb, but he's going to refit his hand, his inside hand inside and clamp down. Then he's going to anchor and ride Chubb wide. Again, these first two plays, I think, show Hawes' advantage, where you being able to leave him solo against various body types at defensive end or edge, and him being able to hold his own in Pass Pro. You get some of that blocking capability of a sixth offensive lineman out there, but more athleticism and more pass catching viability. Let's get into the tape. Okay, let it play a little bit. We'll go in slow-mo first. Watch Chubb get into Hawes. First off, I like how Hawes kind of attacks him, jump sets him a little bit, right? But Chubb does a good job, gets his hands, 3 points of contact, knocks Hawes back a bit. You can see him starting to drive him. There's look at the hand. Look at the hand. Watch him snap that inside hand and refit it. Bang. Right into the chest of Chubb. Clamps that inside hand. And then watch him anchor. Stalls him out. So Chubb feels that. He's like, okay, let me try and get wide. And Hawes goes with him. Yes, he's got Knox there for some help. Doesn't really need him. Knox looks inside initially, kind of insert, looking to clean up anything on the inside. For all intents and purposes, Hawes is one-on-one versus Chubb. That refit is so nice, and then he rides him wide. Now we're going to go in real time. You can see, watch him start to get driven back. Boom. The real time really shows how quick he snaps that inside hand as he refits it. Boom. And then again, Chubb does a good job. Okay, let me try to transition. I've stalled out here. Let me go outside. Nope. Hawes keeps moving his feet. He maintains hands. He understands leverage. He understands feel. This one's nice too because he doesn't start winning right out of the gate like he did against McDonald. Like Chubb gets into him a bit. You can see he's backing up. Uh-oh, backing up. Uh-oh, backing up. Okay, let me refit my hand, anchor, and turn this man and ride him wide. And then Allen makes the throw inside to Kincaid. Again, being able to handle your own in Pass Pro against various body types at edge. And this is there's some violence in the hands. There's just that refit. I hope everyone cares about this as much as I do. That refit is just so awesome. Boom. It just, the real time, the slow-mo shows the precision of it, but the real time just shows the snap in it. It's almost, again, he's refitting that hand and clamping it inside, but it's almost like a punch. Boom. And he does that while he's anchoring against the power and a compression type of dude. That's really nice to see out of Jackson Hawes. And again, something that It's better than what Knox can do as a pass protector. It's much better than what Dalton Kincaid can do as a pass protector. It's more similar to an actual offensive lineman, a la Alec Anderson, than it is a tight end. But you have the pass catching viability and threat there that is much more significance. That carries much more significance, I should say. I saw this really fast from Levi, who says, I didn't care about it, but now I do. Thanks for showing me. I like this comment. Thank you so much. All right. This next one, I love this play. This is from this past week against the Miami Dolphins. This is the Bills running blast counter YF. It's essentially a counter run, and then the Y is for Jackson Hawes, who's circled here, and the F is for Reggie Gilliam, on number 41. I love a good gap scheme run, which is what counter is. And I especially love it out of here where you've got split back gun, and then you're going to run counter off of it. The blast comes from the blast motion that Jackson Hawes is going to go into. And I'm going to show you. So you'll see him on the snap or right before the snap as he starts to go in that blast motion. Hawes' job is to meet the end man on the line of scrimmage, ideally kicking him out. I'm going to show you what that means. We're going to illustrate it. But ideally, he's trying to meet the end man on the line of scrimmage and kick him out. Chubb is that end man on the line of scrimmage coming from the left side. He's just on the inside shoulder of Mr. Keon Coleman. Here's Chubb right here. And what Chubb actually does a pretty good job, he's going to try and wrong arm Jackson Hawes, and he's going to try and spill this run, but we're going to watch Hawes adjust his course and log him inside, which essentially just means he's going to seal Chubb inside of him. This is really nice. This I know this may sound dumb to some people. This is one of my favorite plays of the season because of what Hawes does, because of what Gilliam does, and also just the concept. I love a good counter run. The Bills don't really run a lot of counter. If you kind of notice the terms we talk about a lot and the concepts we talk a lot about, it's duo, it's mid-zone weak, it's all the tackle pull stuff, it's dart, where the tackle is pulling and getting around to that front side linebacker, or it's tackle long trap, where the tackle is pulling and kicking out the end man on the line of scrimmage. Those are their three main concepts. And I put the tackle pull stuff all into one. So it's really four. You get dart, you get tackle long trap, then you get duo, and then you get mid-zone weak. And mid-zone weak, where it's essentially the majority of zone runs the Bills run are mid-zone runs. But all mid-zone is the aim point of the running back is the inside leg of the offensive tackle. If you've got inside zone, the aim point is the inside leg of the guard. Mid-zone, again, is the inside leg of the offensive tackle. Outside zone is the inside leg of the tight end. Wide zone, roughly 2 yards outside of the tight end, if you ever want to kind of figure out like which zone is which type of run. But again, the Bills do mid-zone, duo, and then the tackle pull stuff. So really four main concepts, 3 buckets if you wanted to put them in. But they don't really run a lot of traditional power. They don't run a lot of traditional counter. Part of it is because their guards, Osiris Torrance and David Edwards, aren't the most mobile, aren't the most fleet of foot. Torrance is a mauler and a masher. Edwards is very technically sound. Neither are plus athletes and guys you really want on the move. McGovern can move at center a bit. Dawkins can move at left tackle. Brown can move at right tackle. So you tend to lean into those guys as your pullers and your movers more so than you do the guards. So you don't really see a lot of traditional power and counter. Both of those usually entail your guards pulling. I say all that to get to this. So we're going to get the blast motion from Hawes. Allen sends him. Here goes the blast motion. Now, here comes Chubb. Chubb sees it right away. So in an ideal world, I talked about it, right? Like Hawes is going to meet him and kick him out. In an ideal world, Hawes wants to kind of meet him here, steal him off, kick him out, right? So you seal him here, and then Gilliam will come and lead through here. And then, well, I mean, that's tied to Cook, but Gilliam would come and lead through here, and then Cook will follow Gilliam into the hole there. But what Chubb does, again, I said he wrong arms Hawes and tries to spill this. So essentially what he does is he takes that inside shoulder of Hawes. He takes it. It's called wrong arming. He's trying to spill this run and make Cook bounce it into his help where he's got guys coming from the second and third level. Hawes sees this. Again, here comes the blast motion from Hawes. Here comes Chubb shooting down the line, trying to wrong arm him and spill this. Watch Hawes just turn, seal him inside with that log block. Oh, and then again, this is happening on the fly because you're reading this. If you're Hawes, bang, turn, log him inside, sealed. Now watch Gilliam meet the backer, bang. And look what we have here. This is just so pretty. And then we got a hat on a hat up here. Like, this just develops so well for Cook because of Gilliam and Hawes. But it starts with Hawes. Like, Hawes reading that. Gilliam is always coming for this guy right here. Whoa, sorry. Gilliam is always coming for Jordan Brooks right here. Oh, I did it again. But Hawes seeing Chubb work right down the line and crash right down the line and try and spill this thing, he's got to adjust, and he does. So he adjusts. You see the body position, gets into him, logs him, seals him inside, and then Gilliam climbs. And also just a good job by Cook reading everything, pacing it. Right as Gilliam is making his block, you see Cook planting on that left leg. He's already getting north and south. Bang, we get a nice run. That's real pretty. And again, huge kudos to Gilliam on this one. Huge kudos to Cook. But we're talking about the tight ends. We're talking about Jackson Hawes in this one. Real pretty. We're watching in real time. Oh, it's just so nice. And then he also gives Chubb a little chuck. Watch him put a little sauce on it at the end. Right there, bang. Just throws him a little bit. Throws him into McGovern or pushes him into McGovern. That's just nice. A little bit of nastiness, the physicality. It's not enough for him to just make the read, log him inside, seal him inside, and make the block and create the crease for Cook. He wants to let him know what's up. Gets hands on him, bang, chucks him, let him know what's good. Real nice. Boom, boom. Look how that hole develops for Cook. And now Cook reads it in real time. Gilliam plays off of Hawes. Again, watch Gilliam. Look at the cut by Gilliam. How he cuts off of Hawes. Boop, to get around. Gilliam doesn't get caught because what could happen is Chubb could spill this thing, right? Gilliam could pop into Hawes, and now all of a sudden as Cook bounces this thing, it's right into the waiting arms of Jordan Brooks. That's what Chubb is trying to do by spilling it, gum the works up. Cook isn't going to go inside. This inside is shut off, so he's got to bounce it here. Chubb would have effectively spilled it right into Jordan Brooks. But Gilliam sees it, plants, cuts around Hawes. Look how tight he is to Hawes, but he doesn't get tripped up. He doesn't get gummed up, and he gets a hat on Brooks, and then Cook gets around. Again, I know for some this probably isn't a big deal. This is one of my favorite plays of the season, and it will be, just because it's counter, the blast motion, who they're using. Again, they're not using pulling guards and tackles. You're using your tight end and your fullback, so you get a little YF, blast counter YF, the blast motion, the counter, your tight end, your fullback, and again, Hawes wants to kick him out. He sees Chubb trying to wrong arm and spill this thing. So what do? Okay, cool. Just going to log you, seal you inside, and then give you a little extra chuck for good measure. Boop. Oh, really nice. Really, really, really nice. Man, I love that play. All right. The next one we're going to get into, this is essentially a Zorro concept, which we've seen the Bills run a ton this year. It's also, I feel like, making a comeback for a lot of teams. This is from the Shanahan tree. The Bills actually ran it a decent amount, whatever season it was a couple years ago where they opened up against the Rams. The Thursday night game, the season opener. Oh, I got to stop because I see a super chat. Thank you very much for being here, Adam. Thank you for the super chat. And Adam says, legitimately great blocking execution on these two plays. Wow. Absolutely. I'm glad you see that. Oh, I appreciate you, DJ Finesse, and the kind words saying, dude, I'm sure everyone is a lock. I'm sure everyone is loving this. I appreciate you for that. Thank you very much. So this Zorro play, again, the Bills ran it a decent amount against the Rams several years ago when they opened up against the Rams. It's a Shanahan tree staple and concept. Essentially, you're going to get Reggie Gilliam. You can see him off to the left here already kind of in action as we start this play. But you're going to get that blast motion from Gilliam. It can be referred to as a surge motion or a fast motion. Different people call it different things. But Gilliam is essentially aiming for Dawson Knox's inside hip. So Knox is here. He's essentially aiming for that inside hip. He's protecting Knox's inside if the man lined up across from him. So this edge, if that edge spikes inside or works inside, Gilliam is there to protect his inside. This allows Knox to move to the next level as needed, and it also creates a potential double team. And then the pre-snap motion from Gilliam, again, that blast motion or surge or fast motion helps create momentum to drive out that end man on the line of scrimmage and essentially open up a larger crease for the running back. So that's this kind of concept in general. If you kind of pay attention or notice, you will have seen this from the Bills a bunch this year. You will see Gilliam, and it's always, I don't want to say always, because maybe I'm trying to run through the Rolodex in my head. No, I'm pretty sure it's always been Gilliam. You'll see this motion, and he'll come through and then just, I lost my track of my mouse. He'll come across on this motion and then just bang that end man line right there. Maybe if the end spikes in here, Gilliam meets him, or you'll see the tight end engage, and then Gilliam comes through and just blasts the hell out of him, and then we get a nice little crease there on the inside. So I wanted to talk about this concept in general. Obviously, we have Hawes circled there in blue, but this concept is making its way back into the NFL a bunch, and the Bills have used it several times in each game this year, and it's another little wrinkle to their runs. So we're going to watch Gilliam come in motion. Now pay attention there, everything we talked about, right? So Gilliam is there to protect the inside hip of Dawson Knox. You get some of this inside activity here. So Knox is already feeling it, like, okay, he's gone inside. Let me just get a little piece. Gilliam is here. I'm going to let it play so you can see that. There's Gilliam ready and be like, okay, cool. Let me take that guy. Gilliam takes him. Knox moves on to the corner, doesn't really get a piece of him, but forces the corner to have to widen and get upfield, which essentially takes him out of the play. So again, watch Gilliam's track. He's going for that end man on the line of scrimmage, picks him up, right? Now, how does that relate to Mr. Jackson Hawes? Hawes on this, he helps just enough to allow Gilliam to get to that block on the end man of the line of scrimmage, and then he works to the nickel, who is Marlon Humphrey on this play, number 44 right here, lined head up on Mr. Jackson Hawes. Huge mismatch for Hawes, and you see it on this play. Hawes is going to get into Humphrey's chest and then get him off his feet and into the air and take him for a ride. Again, this is a mismatch you see all day. And this is the advantage of, if this was Knox and Kincaid, this would be, actually, let me go back to it. If this was Knox and Kincaid and you didn't have Hawes, this inline guy ideally is probably Knox. You don't really want Kincaid inline too much. Now, if you're going to run Zorro and you know, like, okay, we can line up Kincaid here, because if this guy spikes inside, Gilliam's going to be there to kind of clean it up, and then that way we can have Kincaid work to the corner. That's the type of thought process you want to have, right? Traditionally, you don't want Kincaid in line, because if Kincaid has to be the inline guy and play head up, if the edge was head up here on him, that's a mismatch for Kincaid all day, and not in a good way. But you'd have to think of this a little differently. You'd have to line them up in specific ways, right? You'd have to think like, okay, what can Kincaid do? What can't he do? How does that function in with Knox? With Hawes and Knox, you can let them do either as run blockers. Granted, Hawes is much more physical and I think much better as a run blocker, especially against a variety of body types, but Knox can more than hold his own. So it just gives you more flexibility. And then you're adding Gilliam into it, just a whole nother wrinkle. But watch Hawes, circled in the blue there, gets off the line again, does just enough. He engages with that edge because he sees him dipping. He does just enough to push him down the line because he knows Gilliam is coming for that Zorro block, right? There's Gilliam. And also look at the timing from Hawes. Going slow-mo. Feels him, lets him go right as Gilliam comes through and right as Marlon Humphrey starts coming upfield. So here's Hawes on Humphrey. Mismatch all day for Hawes in a good way. Advantage all day for Hawes. Watch him get into Humphrey. Look at him take him off his feet. Humphrey is airborne. And then watch Hawes just continue to drive and continue to drive and continue to drive and continue to drive. Spencer Brown also gets into Roquan Smith on this one, right tackle 79. Spencer Brown gives Roquan a nice little chuck. Ravens are having all kinds of issues defending the run this year. Just look at that. I like the Zorro concept. I really love the whole momentum and pre-snap motion piece from Gilliam. It just allows him to absolutely mash and beat the hell out of anybody on the end of the line of scrimmage. In addition to kind of creating help for that tight end that he's supporting there. And yeah, just look at Hawes. Again, so what have we shown Hawes do so far here, right? We showed him in one-on-one pass pro against a lighter, speedy, lankier type of edge. We showed him one-on-one in pass pro against a thicker, bigger bodied power and compression type of edge. We showed him going in blast motion and picking up the end man and logging him inside and sealing him on counter. And now here he is as the inline tight end functioning on zone, on Zorro to be particular with the toss there. Just driving him out. Beautiful. One more time because this is fun. And I like Marlon Humphrey. He's a good nickel. This sucks for him. It's just mismatch city all day for him. Gets him off his feet, drives him. This next one we're going to get, nothing crazy on this one from a schematic perspective. This is a mid-zone run for the Bills. It is going to the left. Jackson Hawes is circled in blue there. He will be on the backside. So he's going to get a backside one-on-one block, backside base block here on mid-zone. What's interesting about this one too, we're going to go through, we're going to watch his hands. He initially goes for a refit, doesn't get it, but then adjusts and tries to chop across the wrists of Jermaine Johnson, who's a good edge. Actually got hurt in this game for Bills versus Jets. And before he got hurt, he actually had several really good reps on Spencer Brown and beat him, but he ended up getting banged up. I don't think he really played the second half. You're going to watch Hawes go for a refit, but then chop across the wrists while moving his feet and getting his body position inside to stay between Johnson and the ball. This also allows Dawson Knox to insert, and this ends up creating a nice crease for Cook backside. Again, this is another one-on-one type of scenario versus an edge, similar to what we showed the first two plays. First two plays here were obviously pass pro against Will McDonald and Bradley Chubb. Now we just get a run block here against Johnson. So again, you look at the leverage here. Part of it too, right? Like if you're looking at this from this angle, you let him block him because you can insert here. Part of it is matchup based, right? Like you'd rather have Hawes handle an edge or defensive end than Knox, but also part of it too is on angles. If you have everybody kind of zone step this way, just based off of the positioning here from Johnson, like this, Knox having to reach him here and turn and seal him is a lot harder than Hawes just having to boop and kind of cut him off there, and then you kind of fold Knox in there. Just changes the angles, changes the blocking from a more advantageous perspective for the offense. But watch Hawes. Boom. Okay. Engages with Johnson. Here we go. Watch Hawes. Watch this outside arm. You can see him kind of loading it up already, right? As Knox is inserting. Watch Hawes. See, he goes for that refit. What we talked about earlier, right? Where he kind of swung that arm violently underneath, almost like a punch to the gut. He goes for it here, but he can't get it, right? It's not there. Just based off of how Johnson has his hands positioned and what the contact point looks like right now. So he changes. He brings that arm up and tries to punch through and chop across. But watch as he does that. He keeps moving his feet and he dips that inside. And look, and sometimes it's not the prettiest thing, right? We've shown a lot of reps for Jackson Hawes here where it's like, wow, look at this technique. Look how clean this is. Look how pretty it is. A lot of times the trenches are not pretty. I'm trying to think of that line from the dude from Succession where like life isn't knights on horseback. It's a fight with a knife in the mud or something like that. And that's a lot of times what trench play is. Sometimes it's really pretty and you have great punch timing and placement and connection and your feet being in sync with your hands and everybody executing the same technique at the same time and the running back sees it. But a lot of times it's just ugly. It's just, hey, keep your body in between the defender and the ball, and that's a win. And Hawes goes for two technique pieces, doesn't get him completely clean, but he just keeps his body in front of Johnson. Just keeps his body in front of Johnson. Playing in real time here several times. Just watch him. He goes for that refit, doesn't get it. You can just keep your body in between. Knox gets the linebacker, get a little crease. Again, there's the numbers advantage backside and where the safety is for the Jets. That's a solid gain. Look at this placement that's created. That's an easy, 4 or 5 yards. Ends up, I think, being 5. That's easy. You're just people moving. But again, highlighting Hawes on the backside. You'd love for him to be able to just completely stall him out or seal him at the line or drive him downfield, but that's a win. Go for the refit, not there. Let's go for the chop, not completely there and clean, but that's fine. Let's keep moving our feet. Let's just get our body. Okay, go for that chop, trying to, again, chop those wrists, snatch them a little bit there. Doesn't get it clean. Okay, cool. Let's keep moving the feet. Let's keep driving. Let's try and maintain some leverage. Stall, do anything we can to just make it ugly, make it muddy. and staying between our man and the ball. Still fair. This next one, as labeled here, we're going to get a frontside block from Mr. Jackson Hawes on this outside or wide zone toss. Hawes, again, does a really good job. That's why we're showing it here. He slows the edge, and he also shows really good really good feel to not leave him too early. If you're going to watch. Hawes is going to be in tandem here with Dion Dawkins, number 73, to the right of him. Dawkins doesn't get leverage right away, so Hawes stays on that double team until Dawkins has leverage, plus the safety, number 29 here, Mr. Minkah Fitzpatrick. He doesn't really do anything to force Hawes off the double because he kind of sits back. Hawes reads this, he feels it out, and then he climbs and he drives Minkah, again, number 29, right out of frame. So let's watch this. We're going to bring Palmer in motion. What's also nice about this is the Bills used to do this a ton last year where they would be in like this type of trips bunch look. It could be different guys. This could be 3 wide receivers. This could be a tight end and 2 wide receivers like it is. It could be a tight end, Alec Anderson, and a wide receiver. Like there's a variety of combinations they would put this way. But when they would send that jet motion across, they would essentially run mid-zone weak to this side. So a little bit of a wrinkle here. Again, this was a major staple and concept for them last year. They'd show this look, send the jet motion, and then you get that mid-zone weak track from Cook. Here they bring Palmer. There's the jet motion. Maybe the defense is thinking that. Regardless, they bump over a little bit. Helps create some good angles for the front side. Now we're going to run this zone toss. If you notice, everybody up here is all zone stepping to the left. We are all in unison on this outside or wide zone toss. But let's watch Hawes here. Again, we're going to go back. There's our boy, 85, Jackson Hawes. Watch the edge jump inside. That's Chop Robinson. So he tries to jump inside, right? Dawkins is trying to get him. They're trying to double this so that Hawes can get up here and get to Minkah, right? That is what we are doing right off rip. And then Shavers is going to take the corner here. But Chop dives inside. Again, this is the tougher block for Dawkins. You have to be able to get to this guy and either drive him out if you can't cross his face, or cross his face, reach him, and kind of seal him. And then you get a seal here, and hopefully Cook can bang it up there inside. But here's Hawes on Chop. You see Dawkins obviously trying to make contact and gain control here. Like you see, look at Hawes just staying on that inside shoulder. We'll watch that at that first level first, right? Chop is trying to drive across here. He's trying to wash this thing out. He's trying to muddy it up. But look at Hawes. He stays on him, eventually gets that hand, pushes him back inside a little bit. Dawkins is able to get some leverage and see now he's not chasing Chop anymore, right? Chop isn't with his body out here and Dawkins is horizontal. Now Dawkins is able to get into his body, drive him vertical. And you notice there's the arm from Hawes. He's feeding Chop Robinson to Dion Dawkins, and now he's making his way to Minkah Fitzpatrick, stalking him, bang, contact, and drive him out. Drive him right out of frame. Real pretty, real nice. Now, the other thing I wanted to highlight in slow-mo again, Hawes is feeling it. He knows he's trying to feed Chop. He's trying to help out Dawkins. But again, keep an eye on Minkah here. Minkah doesn't charge this right away. He doesn't force Hawes to come off the double. And Hawes does a good job by not bailing Minkah out here or bailing out Chop. Like he's sitting there, knows that that's the guy he's trying to get to. But if he's not threatening, let me stay on this double. Let me help out Dawkins. Okay, Minkah's coming a little bit, but he breaks down, settles again. Let me stay. Okay, cool. I'll keep that arm there. Let me keep feeding him. Now I pull off because I feel Dawkins has control. Right? Minkah doesn't do anything to force him off. Hawes decides that. But it's good for him to have the composure and the feel and the recognition and the processing to know that he doesn't have to leave that double until he has to leave that double. And then he drives Minkah right out of the play. We're watching in real time here, so you can get the full experience. That's really nice frontside action. Good job by Tyrell Shavers, too. Even a good job from Edwards doing what he can at left guard there. David Edwards at left guard. Watch Edwards at left guard here. I know he's not the focus of this episode of this play, but watch Edwards at left guard right here. He's got a 3-tech lined up on his outside shoulder there. So Edwards has to get out of his stance quick because the angles are not on his side. He's got to get out of his stance quick to try and cross face. And watch Edwards just get out of his stance. Bang. Tries to go for that outside chop, gets some positioning. This is just really well done on the front side. Shavers, Hawes, Dawkins, Edwards. Also, a really good job. Watch Cook pacing this run. Waiting. Boom. Waits for that crease to develop. He trusts that crease is going to develop, and then he hits it. Even Connor McGovern, 66, climbing to the second level, getting a piece of Dodson, doing what he can to impact him. Really good work from the center over on that left side, but Hawes is obviously the tip of the spear here, working with that double with Dawkins, climb into the second level, and then boom, driving Fitzpatrick right out of the picture. Really nice. Really, really nice from Mr. Jackson Hawes. This last play we're going to look at is the block and touchdown catch from the game against the Miami Dolphins. I did not put the catch from the Baltimore Ravens game in week 1, that big, long, essentially triple catch where Hawes bobbles it a couple times and then pins it against his helmet / finally catches it right on the goal line. That play's been talked about a ton. We talked about it on social. We talked about it in the film room, so I didn't want to just completely drill down on that too much and highlight him because it's been over talked a ton. So if you wanted to see that, I apologize for not having that. But this one is really nice, and it just happened recently. So we're going to get Hawes coming in motion. Looks like he's going in that jet motion or some blast, and then he's going to slam on the brakes and fall down. We're going to get a return motion from him. We're trying to bluff this thing like it is split zone. So he's going to engage Matthew Judon here. Shout out to Judon rocking the orange long sleeves. I think that looks good with this Dolphins jersey. It's a really solid aesthetic. So they're trying to make this thing look like split zone. You're getting zone block into the right across the board. Here comes Hawes to take out the end man of the line of scrimmage. Either like just seal him or cut him, take his legs out. So that way Cook can either go this way or cut it back and go meow. So you are, if you're the Bills with this concept, you're essentially bluffing like it's split zone here. And you're going to see Jackson Hawes engage Judon. Again, they want to make it look like split zone, but watch him fit his hands, get inside and under Judon, and lift him up a little bit. That's what causes Judon to slip. I'm sure everyone is familiar with this play. At first, when I watched it real time, I was like, oh, Judon just slipped, and he kind of fell down. I don't think he necessarily wrecked him. I saw people being like, whoa, he just mashed him and just absolutely took him out. Judon does slip, but Hawes causes that slip, which I think is a really nice thing to see. And then he's going to release to the flat and make himself available for Josh Allen. So here comes Hawes. Slips. That's okay. Return motion. Let's bluff the split zone. Watch him get into. They meet, right? Not great positioning. Judon's kind of just bent over. Look at the hand placement. You can see this one. Bang. Little bent. And where is it? Right on that chest plate, right on that breastplate, right above the number, or almost right to the left of where that font is in the center of the jersey that says Dolphins or Lions or Bills or whatever. Look at the hands. Now watch him lift and get under him. That takes Judon off of his one foot, and his one foot that's on the ground, this left one, he's kind of on the outside of his foot, almost rolling his ankle a little bit. Not a solid base, not a solid foundation. Just slips, essentially face plants. Then he releases. Then Josh Allen has another one for the and one mixtape. Feeds it to Hawes. Watching in real time. This is nice. Again, at first I was like, oh, he just made contact with Judon and Judon just slips, but Hawes causes that. Gets good inside hand position and starts to drive and lift a little bit. Again, he just wants to engage him, pop him, and then let go and get to the flat. But the fact that he can engage him and knock him down completely now, again, you just want to impede Judon, bang him inside, so that way Allen, when he boots and he sprints out here, he's clean, right? You just don't want that guy to affect Allen in any way. But this works out even better than you would have drawn it up because Judon goes down. So now Allen just gets to sit there and figure out what he wants to do. Does he want to put Rasul Douglas in hell out there and run at him and try and juke him or run through him? Or we'll just play a little game here. Oh, you're committing? Okay, cool. Let me just back flip that like a second baseman going to a shortstop for a double play. But that's just really nice from Hawes. Again, that's what you can offer here. And also from the actual the play calling aspect, again, this has a threat to it because if they're running split zone, this is a viable, like you have that sniffer tight end, you have that pull across the formation from Jackson Hawes. This is a viable thing. Like you're seeing that, you're reading that as like, okay, this is play action. Like, or not play action, this is run. So you have to honor the run. That's a real thing. You can't just assume it's play action. You can't not honor the run. You have to play like it's real if you're that end man on the line of scrimmage, because Jackson Hawes is a real blocker. And that's a real thing you have to deal with. And then Hawes gets in, gets under, lifts, and torques a bit. Judon can't get his footing. He's on the ground. We're off to the races. Ridiculous play from Allen. I also love the spike from Hawes and watch Knox come and just hug him. It's great. Good stuff. Really, really good stuff. I did the same thing last week where I couldn't figure out how to get myself back onto the screen there. So yeah, so that's the film. Really nice stuff from Jackson Hawes. I know it's been talked about by a lot of folks. He's even getting some national media coverage, which is cool, but I wanted to focus on him in this episode because he has been one of my favorite parts of this entire season. His physicality, his ability, and it's not just the physical presence that he brings and the physicality, right? Like him driving guys downfield and taking guys for a ride and driving them out of frame and chucking dudes a little bit and putting a little sauce on it with his blocks at the end, pushing guys a little bit, taking them to the ground, chucking them. But it's the technicality with which he also operates. It's the hand positioning. It's the body positioning. It's the leverage. It's the understanding of where to put his body and not to stop moving his feet. It's the timing of the hands with the feet and how in sync he is. It's the ability to refit his hands while anchoring. Like, just that ability is awesome. It's being able to execute a snatch and trap. Like all of these things, you're facing one type of edge. Cool. Hit him with a snatch trap, refit your hands inside. You're facing a much different kind of edge after. Oh, he's driving you back a little bit. Cool. Let me refit my hand. Let me snap that hand in there, clamp it as I refit it, and then anchor and ride my man wide. Just the versatility that he has in pass pro against various body types and sizes at edge, and his ability in the run blocking game as well. The function we showed him, send him in blast motion, let him lead counter, right? Let him focus on the backside as we run mid zone to the other side. He can base block and cut some dudes off. I didn't even show several of them where he'll just take an edge in tandem with like Spencer Brown on the right side. There's one really good one against the Ravens, I think against Ardarius Washington, where Washington's trying to like settle himself in the gap, and Hawes just washes him the hell down on mid zone, and Cook cuts it back right off of Hawes's butt. And it's just, there's plenty of space there because Hawes washes down that defensive end and washes down that side. He's just can function of a variety of ways. Gap scheme, zone, at the point of attack, on the front side, on the back side. You can send him in motion. You can have him do play action stuff. You can use him as a pass catcher a little bit. And then as we start to stack things going forward, right, now we can show these base block looks in pass pro, right, or in the run game, however you want to kind of focus on it. And now we can have him take and engage and then shed that guy and leak out into the flat, like a lot of teams do with their tight ends, a la give me the Tucker Kraft type of usage for Jackson Hawes. Because Kraft, I think Tucker Kraft right now is putting himself into the George Kittle conversation in terms of like the next guy to kind of take that throne from Kittle in terms of like the best overall tight end in football, being able to function legitimately as a force as a run blocker, but also be a force as a pass catcher. Kittle's been the best at that for years. And I think Tucker Kraft is starting to get into that mold where he can function in a variety of the things that we talked about tonight for Kraft or for Hawes. Kraft can do a lot of that. You can have him one-on-one in pass pro. You can bring him in motion, have him lead on counter. You can have him follow the guard and be the second guy on these counter looks, or you can have him lead and kick the end man out. There's a variety of things you can do. He can be the follow-through guy on gap scheme. He can be the kick-out guy or the log guy on gap. You can have him function at the point of attack on zone on the backside, and he's also just a monster as a pass catcher. But then you start to kind of lean into those games and those things where engage, base block, psych, shed, leak out into the flat, and now there's nobody there, or you're getting him one-on-one with a corner, and now you got to force that corner on the outside to come up and tackle this big hulking type of tight end. What's some of the stuff that the Packers do with Kraft? I can see the Bills starting to lean into some of that with Hawes because of what he is as a blocker, because of how they're using him in line, because he is able to function one-on-one against defensive ends and edges. The defense isn't going to see that and be like, no, they're not going to let him do that. That's a tendency breaker. That's a bad matchup. Let's watch for him leaking out. They're not going to see that or think that necessarily because Hawes can hold his own. So now you get to start stat. Oh, so close. I had that opening flub in the first 30 seconds and I didn't have one until now. Actually, maybe I had a couple others. Things start to stack, right? So you have the dictation capability because of Hawes and this tight end grouping. You have the mismatch creation in the run and the pass, the run-pass conflict, all of that stuff. But then you can start to stack the different play action games. You can marry the run and the pass and marry play action with your run concepts and everything you can start to lean into. It starts to get really fun. That's the big thing I would start to look for next. We showed a lot of these, again, these base blocks in the run, but then, the one-on-one pass pro situations, those two plays we let off with against McDonald and Chubb, I would start to watch for those. And now he's shedding that man inside or letting him come upfield and he's releasing into the flat. And now it's an easy, 8 or 9 yard gain on first down or second down, or maybe more if depending on the coverage or if that corner comes up and Hawes runs through him. So get a little bit of that Tucker Kraft type of usage for Jackson Hawes. And I think that would be absolutely, absolutely splendid. Want to go back here. A lot of comments. Bum, 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 bum. Where did we leave? Claude says Jackson Hawes gives the Bills what they thought they would originally get when they drafted Dalton Kincaid. Even better, he takes the pressure altogether. 2 tight ends. I think it's a different skill set, but I think from the dictation standpoint, yeah, like if you're a team that's going to use a lot of 12 personnel, you need both tight ends to be functional run blockers against as many body types as possible, and then also be functional pass catchers because you need to be able to put teams into run pass conflict and personnel conflict. You have to force them to, we really don't want to match with a nickel because both those tight ends can mash DBs. Also, we don't want to play base because if we bring a bigger body in to replace the nickel, both those guys are a mismatch as pass catchers. That's the type of, hell that you want to put a defense into. I don't think Kincaid necessarily was ever going to be that guy because of the type of blocker that he is, but he does offer you some dictation and some mismatch capability. Again, I think Hawes very much is right now like the inverse of Kincaid in terms of their skill sets and play style. But fair. Also, the one I almost wanted to show because it was just funny. When Hawes got blown up against Miami, I forget who it was that blew him up, but just kind of came off the tackle and just bang, popped him right in the face and knocked him on his butt. That was funny. I like that. Again, not for Hawes, but it was funny. Patton says, I love our tight end room. It might be our second best room behind the O-line. I actually think that's probably accurate. Not because I'm doubting you, Patton, or because they're going to move Tremaine to edge, but just because I'm thinking about it for the first time. I think that's probably true. Yeah, which is really nice. Really nice. And Boris has done a really good job as a tight ends coach. It ties into Cromer a little bit as well. Really nice. Really nice. Oh, yeah, K. Moore, you calling out Keon, doing good work on that play. That ran through. Yeah, I think Keon's had a nice start to the year. I know he's had a couple like drops here and there, but I think Keon's been solid as a blocker and as a pass catcher. But it's cool to see, again, this tight end room develop and come together. And now this is kind of becoming a tip of the spear and focal point for this team, which is pretty awesome. Padden says you could move Kincaid outside on something like a 13.5. All jokes aside, what I would like them to do is go, technically 22 or 23, I should say, where that like cluster attached to the formation in like a trips look, or it could be whatever type of alignment, like attached to the formation or hipped off in line. But it would be Hawes and Knox and Gilliam, and then Kincaid is split out wide as like a quasi X. Or it could be Knox and Hawes and Anderson, or Anderson, Hawes, Gilliam, Kincaid split out as that quasi X. I absolutely would love to see that. I mentioned it during the offseason as something that they could do. I would really, really, really like to see that. And then, yeah, they start to, I'm seeing a lot of the comments kind of go through these pieces. Yeah, like they need, if they start to tie in more play action, and that starts to allow you to generate some chunk plays in the intermediate, or maybe some shot plays downfield. Things start to open up a little bit in the pass without having to go spread and have these concepts designed to take advantage of what coverage and read, the safeties pre-snap and how the picture changes post-snap. You just get into these run looks where you've been mashing teams, and then you go play action to Kincaid or Knox or one of the wide receivers or even Hawes potentially. If you get some space underneath, or you hit Kincaid in the intermediate, the low to mid intermediate, or you're able to take a shot to Palmer, or you're able to take a shot to Keon, things start to stack a little bit, which is fun. Oh man, negative comments for Sean McDermott. That's intense. Okay. This is a good comment from Mr. Free and Clear. He says Cook already knows that Hawes is the guy to follow. Yeah, you could do a lot worse than just following Jackson Hawes wherever he goes. Same thing with Gilliam. Joe says orange sleeves make Judon look like a traffic cone, which is fitting considering he got moved like one on this play. That's very funny, but I do like the orange sleeves, just like I liked the red sleeves he wore when he was in New England. It's a good look. Ooh, James says, will 13 be our go-to red zone formation? I could see that, because you have to honor the run, and then the play action element is there. I really just, when you get into the red zone, especially the low red zone inside the 10, I'm just mashing. I more often than not, I'll just run duo and just run it to the right. Torrance to Brown to Hawes to Gilliam or Anderson or even Knox, and I'm just people moving and mashing, and then we'll stack some play action stuff from there. It's nice. Paul says Hawes is an offensive lineman numbered like a tight end because he can do tight end stuff. It's very fair. Very fair, very fair, very fair. You know what else is very fair? The best pizza in Buffalo, New York, One Pie Pizza. I say it every week. I don't say that they're the best pizza in Buffalo, New York because they sponsor the show. They sponsor the show because I think they are the best pizza in Buffalo, New York. Delicious sweet sauce pie, cup and char pepperoni, homemade blue cheese, a great cheese to sauce ratio. They chop up different toppings and ingredients evenly and sprinkle them across the pie. They named a pizza after the show and the Cover One brand. It's called the Cover One Allen Goat. I'm not going to spoil the ingredients because when you read them, it's much better than hearing what they are, and it's absolutely delicious. They also do, like, if you want healthy stuff, they do some really good salads that you can grab as well. They also do a really great breakfast pizza. They also have a catering division called Elevated Catering of Buffalo. I've had them do several events for myself and my family over the past several years, and it's hit every time. And it's not just like, you can get pizza stuff too, but they make all these different types of mac and cheeses. This shrimp and rice dish. It was like a coconut shrimp and rice thing, and I'm not a big coconut guy, but this thing just absolutely slapped. Everything they make is great, sincerely, and I'm not just saying that. It's absolutely delicious. If you have not gotten yourself some One Pie Pizza, you should be ashamed of yourself. Get yourself some One Pie Pizza as quickly and as properly as you can. They're really good people making really good food. And I say they're really good people because of all the different initiatives and things that they do for the city of Buffalo and the community at large, partnering with Roswell to knock out cancer, partnering with the SPCA, partnering with the Alzheimer's Foundation, their annual Toys for Tots drive, which keep that in your back pocket. They will be starting that soon. For the holiday season. I think Toys for Tots is one of the most awesome things and drives every year because the holidays are awesome, but it's not always awesome for everyone. So anything you can do to kind of help some kids out or families out in need, I think it's awesome. So Toys for Tots is great. And for every toy you donate, they'll give you a ticket, which gets entered into a raffle for a bunch of different awesome prizes like autographed Bills jerseys or helmets, Sabres tickets, Sabres memorabilia and signed stuff. Free pizza, just a whole bunch of great stuff. So if you haven't tried One Pie Pizza, check it out. Online menu can be found in the episode show notes, whether here on YouTube or whichever podcasting app or platform you're listening to this show on. The catering link can be found in the same spot right underneath it. And yeah, I think that'll do it for us here in this episode. James says, you came so very close to a motorcycle passerby free film room earlier. It's like that chopper knew what time it was. Dude, it was nuts. For those who don't know, every time we do the film room, there's always like a motorcycle that rides by outside when I have the windows open. It's been like different ones. And this week it was just nuts because we did it on a Thursday in the afternoon, not normally like a Wednesday at 5. And I still got the motorcycle. It's just crazy. I don't, yeah, it's really like someone is watching this show on their phone, on their bike. And as soon as they get to the outro, they're like, all right, cool. Let me rev it up and ride by real fast, which I would respect the hell out of somebody if they did that. That would be very funny. I'm going to start to say goodbye. If you have not already, please, 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 and thank you, drop a like on this video. Likes are the lifeblood of these streams. If you are watching live and enjoyed this episode, please drop a like. I'm just looking at some stuff now. 2 people apparently gave this a thumbs down. I would love to know why, but I'll probably never find out. But yeah. So if you weren't planning on dropping a like, if you could now, that would be great because it would counteract the downvotes. And likes are great for the algorithm, and they are the lifeblood of these streams and for the brand here on YouTube. So please, if you have not already, please, 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 and thank you, drop a like here on this video. If you're watching live, or if you're watching post live later, drop a like here on this video. If you're listening on one of the podcasting apps or platforms, that's cool too. Please rate and review and subscribe to Disguise Coverage. Sincerely, ratings, reviews, and subscriptions are super helpful for all the algorithms and the digital stuff. So if you enjoy this content or enjoy this show, you're a regular listener. If you do any or all of that stuff, would be greatly appreciated. Turn on notifications for the Disguise Coverage playlist here on YouTube. Check out the rest of the content across the entire Cover One brand. And yeah, I know Kay Amori mentioned it earlier. Hope you folks are enjoying this format of the show. I know we normally do preview stuff, but I'm really enjoying this. I think you guys are too, and girls are too. So if you're enjoying this, let me know in the comments. Let me know on YouTube. Get at me on social. Get at me in the Discord for the insiders, whatever you got. Hope you folks are enjoying this content because I'm really enjoying doing it. And yeah, I appreciate everybody who stopped by. If you watched live now, watched post live later, listened, whatever form or fashion, thank you very much for tuning in to this episode. Oh, want to go grab this real quick from Adrian, who says, what do you think about signing CJ Gardner-Johnson? I don't think he fits I don't know what he is off the field, but based on the fact that he seems to kind of keep wearing out his welcome with multiple teams, I don't think he's really a Bills culture fit guy. I love his play style and the sandpaper that he brings and the violence, and I would welcome that. But it seems like he's kind of a headache off the field. And though I think the Bills culture could absorb that and it'd be fine, and he is a gamer and he's a high-level player in a variety of ways, I don't think he necessarily fits from a scheme fit perspective or from a culture standpoint. But I would welcome him because he's awesome at times on the field, and the violence and physicality that he plays with are absolutely awesome. Yeah. Hope you folks enjoyed this episode. If you did, tell your family, friends, and loved ones about it. If they're Bills fans, if they're football fans, whatever. I think a lot of what I do here from an X's and O's and scheme and structure standpoint transcends just the Bills piece, or at least that's what my hope is. So yeah, hope you folks enjoyed this episode. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday night. If you enjoyed this episode, tell your family, friends, and loved ones about it. If you hated this episode, tell your enemies about it and try and make them watch it and ruin their night or day or week or whatever have you. I hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. If you're going to the Bills game this weekend, enjoy, have fun, be safe, be smart, be responsible. If you're in town and visiting, get yourself some one-pie pizza. That means you, Joe DeRosa, get yourself some one-pie pizza. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday night. Appreciate you folks. I see a lot of the kind words that were coming through for myself in the live chat. As always, I don't pull those up when I'm solo because I think it's corny to just pull up that stuff about myself, but I see all of it. I greatly appreciate it, and I'm very thankful for it. And yeah, I'll see you when I see you. Godspeed, and as always, go Bills.